Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Nagler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on the Cheesehead TV social channels. It is Victory Monday. The Green Bay Packers outlasting the Houston Texans yesterday. Absolutely love to see a game that came down to a final drive, putting the Packers in position to hit a game-winning field goal. But that was the first kind of offensive action of the second half, while the defense kept the team in the game and ultimately helped bring home a victory. You guys have heard me mention a guy who was one of our Patreon members, Soder, a longtime Patreon member. He's been watching the Packers even longer than I have, which tells you the guy's been seeing a lot of Packers football. And he often talks about the fact that through the course of this resurgence, essentially, but even going back to the days of Bart Starr or even some of the other really good quarterbacks the Packers have had throughout history, the Packers franchise has almost always been quarterback reliant. It is very rare where they have been able to survive an off day from their superstar quarterback. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to this. Certainly, they've had some good defenses along the way. That's how you win championships, and the Packers have won 13 of them. But too often, we've seen these young, up and coming quarterbacks to superstar quarterbacks have to put on the Superman cape, be great, produce at a high level, or else the Packers usually don't come out with a victory. Well, yesterday, Jordan Love certainly made some amazing plays, but he also had a couple of mistakes where, again, in the past, probably would have led to a loss, probably would have led to the Packers taking an L, especially on a day where not only did he turn the ball over twice, but special teams contributed to another turnover. That's a lot to overcome. And the Packers defense absolutely went on lockdown mode in the second half. The way they were able to essentially flummox CJ Stroud throughout most of that game, especially in the passing game, obviously, there's little doubt that Jeff Hafley, being given his flowers today, deserving of all of them. That's not a game where, in the recent past especially, that the Packers would have won. The fact that they came out victorious yesterday bodes well. That tells you this is a team with a lot of talent in all three phases that is able to put it together when necessary, even when things are all going against them. Mistakes are piling up, can't seem to get out of your own way on offense. All of a sudden, the defense rises to the occasion and completely slams the door. You absolutely love to see it. Even so far as to say as a type of complementary football, you would have liked to seen a little bit more out of your offense in the second half. But the way that Jeff Hafley's crew took control of that game, I mean, call it what it is. They absolutely took control of the football game in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Not a normal occurrence. Now, as Matt likes to joke about, the old coaching adage, now you done screwed up. You've made that. You've set the standard. Going to expect that week in and week out. Certainly thought we saw a glimpse of it against Tennessee in that second half where they ended up with 8 sacks. And clearly the sacks weren't as plentiful yesterday, but they certainly got after the quarterback at an alarming rate. And yeah, you hope you see more of that. Now, you know what coaches say. You got to earn the right to rush the passer. And certainly the Packers got into positions where they were able to utilize some of these exotic blitzes, right? That doesn't just happen. You can't be sitting there on 1st and 10 and be sending guys like that. A lot of these plays happened on 3rd down where the Packers had you eat their vegetables on early downs and earn the right to get after the quarterback, which they certainly did throughout the entirety of that contest. You love to see it. You hope it, is here to stay, so to speak, against Jacksonville starting next week, but throughout the remainder of this season, because it does feel like this is something they've been building towards with the way they've kind of been finding pieces on the defensive side of the ball, who plays where. We've seen Evan Williams really step to the fore. We've seen Bullard be utilized in a lot of different ways. McKinney is a stalwart there at the post safety. But now you've seen Wilson step in at linebacker. You've seen Cooper come to the fore, as it were. And you saw the front being utilized in all sorts of different ways. Rashawn Gary, especially moving around all the way, not only pre-snap, but post-snap. You never knew where he was going to be. Stroud essentially ran into his pressure 3 or 4 times during the game. That's just outstanding work. And you hope that's what we see a lot more of as the season continues. Hello to everybody in the comment section. Hope you're all doing well. So good to see everybody. You guys know what time it is. I got to give a shout out to our good friends over at PrizePicks. That's right. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. You just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com. Use code CHTV. That's code CHTV. Spend $5 on your lineups and get $50 instantly. Do it, people. And in fact, please, I've started tweeting out my lineups. Please tweet me your lineups. Download the app, get your lineups in, tweet them at me. Let me see what you're up to because it is, I got to admit, it's a little addictive and it's a lot of fun. I'm having a great time. Take a look at my lineup for tonight. Tonight's Monday Night Football contests, there are two of them. I'm concentrating on the Baltimore Buccaneers game because that's the one I probably watch a little bit more of. I like Isaiah Likely tonight. He's run more routes than Mark Andrews in 4 consecutive games. He leads the Ravens in both red zone and end zone targets. Absolutely expect him to see more than 3 targets tonight. Feeling really comfortable about that one. Speaking of comfortable, I'm very comfortable saying that Derrick Henry, he's probably going to get in the end zone. Uh, whether it's a rush, whether it's a reception, Henry has scored in every appearance this season. I don't expect that to stop tonight. And then Chris Godwin for the Bucks. He's out targeted Mike Evans, who it sounds like he's going to give it a go tonight. But Godwin has out targeted Evans in 4 of 6 appearances. And with Baltimore, they're giving up 8th most per game points from the slot. Godwin should see plenty of balls come his way. Give me more than 6.5 receptions. And then finally, Rachaad White, who I really like. I think he's a very good back. He's supposed to be back in the mix tonight. But no single player has gone over 46 rushing yards against the Ravens this year. And offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, he's indicated all 3 of these backs are going to be utilized tonight. I just don't see White ending up with more than 25 yards on the ground. Give me less than 25.5 rushing yards for White in his return to the lineup. Do it, people. Get on it. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, download it, set your lineups, send them to me on Twitter. I want to play along with you. Let's have a great time this entire football season. We got 8 more weeks to go, 9 more weeks. Let me know. Let me see your lineups. Hello to everybody in the comments section. So good to see you. Hope you're all doing well. Nathan starting us off with a super chat. For anyone, quote, worried about Jordan Love being too much of a gunslinger, go watch the latest episode of the QB School. Super Bowls are coming. Excellent. Yes, I haven't been able to watch it. I did see that JT was in the process of putting it together. I'm very excited to go watch it. If you're not following him on YouTube here, I'd highly recommend doing so, not just for his Jordan Love breakdowns, but for all the work he does breaking down quarterback play across the NFL. It's really good stuff. Joe, what's up, man? Love is too far. If Love wins 3 straight MVPs, leads Packers to 2 straight Super Bowls, and wins one, I'd consider that pretty good. Why are we limiting it to winning one? That's all I want to know. He's going to win both of them. Come on now. Joey, thanks so much, man. Do you think Hafley is using some of Flores' schemes? I mean, a bit. There's no doubt there's a similarity in the sense that what you saw yesterday, especially, a lot of putting a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage. Now, again, this was a lot of third down situations, right? And then not really, as the quarterback, being able to get a bead on who is going to be dropping, who's going to be coming. They kept playing like games up front with their stunts, guys looping around, as I mentioned, and it really wreaked some havoc with the protection schemes and the rules that the Texans had. That is somewhat similar to what Flores is doing. There's no doubt about it, especially when, you can see plays where you have a corner ending up at safety, you have a linebacker ending up out at corner in a cover 2. Those are that's very similar to what Flores has been doing. No doubt about it. I wouldn't call it a direct copy or exactly the same, but I will say what does bode well for the future. And what I love about what we saw from Hafley yesterday is clearly, if you look prior to yesterday's game, Stroud's biggest struggle this year was in Minnesota against the Vikings defense. So I think it makes sense to take a look at that tape and see how can I make that work within the confines of my scheme, with my talent. Because that's the other thing. You can't just fit that and say, oh, we're going to do exactly what the Vikings are doing, because you have a different set of talent on offer. But you can utilize some of the same principles, which is what I gather is what he's doing there. And it was pretty damn effective. Now it's 2 games now where you've seen Stroud really struggle with that style, and now I'm not saying that's the blueprint, but you gotta think the more teams put that type of thing on tape, the more Stroud is gonna see it, and the Texans are gonna have to figure that out. No doubt about it. Rin for the win. Thanks for the super chat. Something that puzzled me yesterday. Is there an argument for not going for 2 when the Packers went up 2019? I was surprised when they kicked the PAT. Yeah, we talked about that live on the watch party. I expected him to. Somewhat surprised he didn't do it, but I also think at some point he's probably just get the points on the board on a day where they were pretty much struggling to execute on offense. Maybe he didn't love any of his 2-point calls on his play sheet, considering what he'd seen from the Texans defense. I mean, flip it around. Look at the fact that the Texans lost by 2. They thought they had a gimme at the 1-yard line. They run one of their 2-point plays, and Evan Williams blows it up, and they lose by 2. So I'm not saying like that's a direct correlation, but maybe that's in the back of Matt's head. Just get points, take points on a day where we're really struggling on offense. And again, I would have loved someone to ask Matt about it, but I haven't heard that. Didn't happen today, and it didn't happen yesterday after the game. I don't think that I recall. Soder, thanks for the super chat, man. One change was when Stroud scrambled, the defense was looking to hit him. They got him once, and Slayton got a sideline shoulder, got in Stroud's head. Yeah, it did. I agree with you on that one. The Slayton one was just funny. Like, what is he supposed to do? I love Stroud looking around for a flag. It's like, no, yes, Stroud is. Slayton's just supposed to stand there and let you run into him. Of course, he's gonna go. You're going full speed. He's just like making sure you don't like bull him over, and you're like, oh, there should be a flag. Give me a break, Peter. This might be my favorite super chat of all time. Does Matt LaFleur think too hard? Does he overthink things? Maybe is that what you're asking? Does he think too hard? I love how this is almost like a direct antithesis of Woody Johnson saying thinking is overrated. I can't believe an NFL owner said that into a microphone, but I digress. Does he think too hard? You stumped me, man. That's a really good question. I don't think he thinks too hard. I think he's absolutely one of the best coaches in the game. I think yesterday he was very frustrated by another really good, talented coach who just happens to work on the defensive side of the ball in D'Amico Ryans. I think there's a case that maybe sometimes he overthinks it and tries to get, quote, too cute at times. But even then, like, I know the moment I was most frustrated with the play call was the 3rd and 1 end around to Jaden Reed. But even there, you see Jordan Love tap his helmet before the play. So you have to think that's probably a cam play. We don't know for sure, right? But I suspect there's a menu there somewhat. And maybe Jordan can, okay, we have this play on, but if I see this kind of front, I'm going to choose the other one. And the Texans make a great play and they have to get off the field. So even in that moment, it's like there's context to it, right? Does he think too hard? I don't know, man. I'm going to have to ruminate on that one and get back to you. That's a pretty deep question. He said, Joey, Jeff Hafley is our Lisan Al Gaib. Lisan Al Gaib. As written. I like it. Mike Witt, how are you, man? Thanks for the super chat. Hey, Nags, how about Eric Wilson yesterday? Dude is just a baller. Really looking forward to seeing Jonathan Ford in this new defense. Thoughts? Yeah, Wilson absolutely stepped up, man. The fact that Matt talked earlier today about the fact that he took 0 snaps at the mic during the week, the inside linebacker, middle linebacker role, 0 snaps during practice all week long, thrust into that role and absolutely delivered. Now, I do think, and I know people are very excited about his game yesterday, as they should be, but I don't think that's a week in and week out proposition. I think teams would be able to take advantage of that if they had all week to prepare for him in that role. But you absolutely loved how he stepped up and delivered when called upon when Quay went down. No question about it. As for, Jonathan Ford, I'm excited. I think he was having his best training camp before getting hurt in that Ravens preseason game. Injured his calf in that game, and now he's been on the shelf for, obviously that first month, and then they opened the 21-day window. It sounds like, kind of reading between the lines here, reading the tea leaves, as it were, they'll probably place him on the practice squad later this week. They did what they did today just because if they didn't, he'd have to go on season-ending IR. So there's a chance it might be a bit yet before we see him in a game, but it stands to reason the fact that they made sure that he got on the roster rather than shutting him down for the year, that they think he can help them at some point this season. Again, that might not necessarily be right away this week, but hopefully down the stretch, second half of the year, we'll see him in the mix at some point. Josh Sims, thanks for the super chat, man. Pass D was amazing. Run D, not so much. Did they just get road graded, or were they willing to give up some of the run in order to keep Stroud in check? Yeah, I think there's a little bit to that, Josh. I talked about this with Andy on Let's Talk Football. I do think you're, facing a really talented offense, and you somewhat have to pick your poison. I mean, yeah, Mixon is talented as hell. I mean, he went off against the Patriots a week ago, right? And certainly got his against the Packers yesterday. But in so doing, they were making sure that Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs never got going. And the tight end, they somewhat limited him as well. Stroud certainly wasn't a factor with his legs and finished with under 100 yards passing. I mean, in the modern NFL, if you shut down a passing game that has that much talent with it, you're going to win more often than not. Now, they got behind the eight ball a couple times because of turnovers, but yeah, I think they somewhat picked their poison. Now, I don't think they got road graded per se, but I do think they were certainly not putting as many numbers in the box, playing as heavy as it were, that they might if they thought, okay, we have to absolutely stop Mixon. They were willing to live with some of it. And another part is sometimes you just catch a guy in a good look, right? There were a couple of plays that Mixon got big gains on where the one that leaps to mind is they had a corner blitz on, they being the Packers, and Jair is coming after the quarterback, and Mixon just slips out the back door for a huge gain up the left sideline. That's just, you know what I mean? Like, that's not being road graded. That's just catching them in a call. Like, they just happened to find a call where he could cut back, and there was a huge lane because the corner was blitzing, and you were hoping as a defensive play caller that you were going to catch them much like you did with McKinney earlier in the game and get maybe hopefully a sack, right? Unfortunately, Mixon's out the gate. So I that doesn't excuse some of it. That doesn't excuse, the fact that yes, he gained a ton of yardage and certainly was a problem all day long. But I do think, yes, it's the old Mike Pettin thing. It's quicker to fly to Miami than it is to walk there. And they thought, let's keep them under wraps in the passing game as much as we can, and we'll deal with the bleeding, so to speak, from Mixon. Matt Buss, thanks for the super chat, man. Quay, a tackle machine before injury. Thoughts? I've been saying it, dude. You can play winning football with Quay Walker. I know everyone thinks that he's a liability or that they need to do better or what have you, but I think Quay is talented, and I think all players have value. And to your point, yes, I think he had 11 tackles last week, and some of those plays that we saw Mixon bust, maybe he doesn't if Quay's out there. Just a superior athlete working sideline to sideline. You have to think there's a possibility that happens. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long he's out. Hopefully, we didn't get any kind of updates today. We'll learn more on Wednesday. Mike Witt, thanks again, man. Hopefully Wyatt gets healthy soon. He was really coming on in this scheme. On the same day, our new kicker kicks a game winner / Carlson misses an extra point. LOL. Yeah, it was great to see Carlson hit the 55-yarder first and all of Twitter go ablaze, and then he misses the extra point, and we're like, and regular programming has resumed. Yeah, as far as Wyatt goes, you are absolutely correct. He looked gangbusters prior to this injury. So hopefully he can, pick up where he left off, because throw him into the mix of what we saw yesterday, that could get fun. That could get real fun. Ed, what's up, man? Perfect weather today. Telling Bear fans, see what kind of weather we get when the Packers win. Never gets old. I like it. That's a decent approach. Luke Carnes, how are you, man? Thanks for the super chat. I love the way the younger guys are talking. A breath of fresh air. Yeah, the quotes in the locker room and the stuff you get from Mic'd Up. I love this team, man. I love the makeup of this team. I love how, yes, they are young, but man, they are a cohesive unit across the board. You love kind of everything you hear as far as selflessness, playing for each other, and accountability for when things go wrong. And okay, that's on me. I got to do better, and I have to be sure to learn from this mistake. It's a special group. I very much agree. William James, how are you, man? Thanks for being a Carry the G Club member. This defense is different when Evan Williams is out there. 1 year ago at this time, we allow a TD on that final drive. Random Packer, DJ Williams. Wow, what a pull. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I thought for sure that, there was a chance that, okay, the Texans go down and get that field goal. All right, now it's on the offense, right? And the fact that we held them to a field goal was good. But in the past, I would have been like, well, we're cooked, right? Last year at this time, it was ugly at the end of these games. I think Jordan was in 2 or 3 of these situations where the whole offense was just not up to it. Well, now they've got a lot more banked reps under their belts, clearly in a better spot running the 2-minute drill. And that's thanks to the defense, putting them in a position to even make it matter, right? You love to see it. And I agree. Evan Williams, he's a difference maker. I mean, he is so young still, got the whole NFL world in front of him. But man, he is a difference maker. Tim, thanks for being a Carry the G Club member. Why isn't Watson a bigger part of the game plan? Craving a breakout game. Is this being spoken by a Christian Watson fantasy football owner? Because I understand it. Yeah, man, I don't know. I tweeted this out. That always sounds so stupid, but I tweeted this out last week that I couldn't believe we were going into week 7 and he had 10 targets on the year. Into Sunday's game, he had 10 targets on the season. Now, playing with a backup for 2 games, getting injured for 1, I understand that affects things, but yeah, I don't know, man. Now, look, they clearly like to utilize him on some of these deep shots, and they tried to get him the ball on that end around that the Texans just did a great job snuffing out. I do wish they'd mix in a little bit more of the jet sweep stuff with him because they almost predominantly use orbit motion for read now instead of some of the straight across stuff. I think you could get him with a push pass at some point if you caught the defense in the right look. But yeah, as far as the overall targets thing, they like him deep, and you saw, Love throw the one pick trying to hit Watson. There was another one, I think it was on one of the plays where Love got sacked, where Watson's about to break open, wide open deep, and Love just doesn't have the time to set and throw it. It's things like that. Just eventually, hopefully, maybe he has one of those type of games, but I think this is kind of how it's going to be. He's going to be, a break their back kind of deep shot at some point. They're not going to go to it too often in the hopes of surprising someone. But we are 7 games into this, and I don't think he's had a game where he's had more than 5 targets, if that. So, yeah, it's a shame too, because I do think they should be throwing deep to him at least 2 or 3 times a game. Just chuck it up. Now, I know football coaches hate that, and they tell you how ridiculous it is, etc. But, man, I'm telling you, his speed, his explosiveness, there's going to be a point where you got single high safety looks pre-snap. And this is something we saw pretty much every day at training camp. Anytime they saw a cover 1 or a single deep safety, they sent Watson or Wicks up a sideline deep, and almost always Love was connecting with them. Wish we'd see some of that on game day. G. David, what's up, man? Amazing game. How does Green Bay sharpen special team operations? Is the coordinator any part of the issue? It's just never particularly great at best. Well, you say that. Now, I understand it. It's frustrating, no doubt. The punt return issues were prevalent yesterday. But at the same time, you talk about, it's just never particularly great. Well, Daniel Whelan is part of special teams, and he was pretty great yesterday. The kicker made all his extra points and won the game at the end of the game, even with a bad snap. That's Whelan and the kicker. Like, that's pretty great. But yeah, the punt return. I don't know, man. You see, and here's where I can't really get too upset at Bisaccia, because I've been out there in the summer, those training camp practices where he is laying into guys for doing exactly what Nixon did and letting the ball bounce. He wants guys up there to catch the fucking ball. And as far as the Reed play, I mean, I don't know what Jaden Reed is thinking there. But I can't imagine, again, that, behind closed doors, they're in meeting rooms and Bisaccia's circling the 5-yard line and going, if it bounces in there, definitely field it. He's not saying that. At some point, it's on the players to make the plays that they are being coached to make. And we can be mad at Bisaccia, but what is he supposed to do? There's no way that this message has not been delivered 10 different ways, 100 different times. Nixon's just got to be smarter. Jaden Reed has to be way more discerning. It's on the players. They are the ones on the field. It's about execution, as far as I'm concerned. That's just me. Mm-hmm. John Simitovich, thanks for the super chat. Do you feel better with McManus? Of course, Carlson, 3 of 3. John, but Carlson also missed an extra point, something McManus did not do. Don't come up in here with your 3 and 3. Come on now. Tell the whole story. Mimsy, what's up, man? Joe Barry has to feel mind blown watching this D. I mean, okay, you guys know I'm no Joe Barry fan from his time as a coordinator, but you have to remember he was hired to run a specific style of defense that the head coach wanted to run. That's all I'm going to say about that. Mike, what's up, man? 2 games in a row with no X pick. What is going on? LOL. Although that safety blitz was Butler-like, my favorite play of the day. It was Butler-like. Seeing him lined up, and they tried it again, not that exact same play, but they had him up at the line of scrimmage late in the game in the fourth quarter, getting after the quarterback yet again. But yes, oh God, blind side. And it's clear Stroud never accounted for him, never even knew that there was a possibility he was coming. You absolutely love to see it. The only thing that would have made that sweeter is if it was a strip sack, but I will take it. Jordan Pagel, thank you for the super chat. Not sure I've ever seen a young Packers player swarm to the ball like Evan Williams. Kid is at the ball all the time. You are not lying. It is like he has some kind of like heat-seeking missile, and the ball is his, intended target. There is zero doubt that wherever the ball goes, he is going to be flowing to it. I just keep thinking back to when he was drafted and Justice Mosqueda putting out there on Twitter a text message that he got from an Oregon defensive, I believe, staff member saying, "Congrats, you just drafted our best defensive player." Because holy cow, you can see. I mean, a lot of times rookies come in and they're like, somewhat swimming a little bit and trying to find their way, especially in a complicated defense that's asking the safeties to do a lot. Man, nothing has been too big for Evan Williams from the moment he stepped on the field in training camp. He has been lights out. He has been on point. He has been assignment sure. He has arrived in a bad mood. He has made it his mission to get the ball on the ground, get it out of the ball carrier's hands, or to knock it down out of the air. Love this player. Absolutely love this player. And he's only, 7 games into his career? Insanity. Joseph, thank you for the super chat. Hear me out. We have a Reggie White-like player in Myles Garrett waiting for a new team. Brian trades a second and third, and that puts us over the top again. Instead of teams like Lions, 49ers, Chiefs, Ravens, go Pack. Joseph, I'm glad you got your fantasy football suggestion out into the ether here. That's probably never going to happen, but it's exciting to think about. No question about it. The biggest difference, obviously, is that Reggie was signed in the offseason as a free agent, completely changing the landscape of not only free agency, but of Green Bay, Wisconsin itself. Entirely different than giving up picks for a player who, yes, very talented and was certainly add to a formidable defense, but I don't see the Packers going that route. Joe, thanks for the super chat, man. Surprised Packers only used play action 6 times? Not really, because they didn't really try and lean into the running game in any kind of meaningful way until the second half when Jacobs finally kind of got on track. And it's, very well proven at this point that you don't need an effective running game to get the play action game going. But it just didn't seem like they were going to be able to sequence things where they felt comfortable getting to it. Now, maybe that's a particular avenue they thought wouldn't work effectively against the Texans defense. And this is something Andy and I talked about on Let's Talk Football. For all they tried to do, especially with the pre-snap motion, but even after the snap of the ball with some of the kind of misdirection stuff that they were trying, whether it was the end arounds or even just simple, like, sending cheat motion this way and trying to run the opposite way. The Texans just seemed to really content to, fire off the ball, but okay, we're going to let you do whatever it is you think you're fucking doing here, and we're just going to attack the ball, and we're just going to be waiting for you. Like, they didn't overcommit, but they certainly were ready for seemingly everything the Packers were doing extraneously while trying to run the ball. Now, a lot of that stuff has been effective this year, but for whatever reason, against the Texans, they was just not working whatsoever. So maybe they, just didn't think the play action game was going to be maybe not of much use, but also that would probably indicate that they knew they were up against a very formidable pass rush, one of, if not the best in the league. You probably don't want your quarterback turning his back to the rush as much as maybe against you would feel comfortable against other teams. That's just guesswork on my part, but that's what leaps to mind. On culture, what's up, man? After the Lamont Hollandquest slander yesterday, I had to go and look at his key block on Desmond's kickoff return in the Super Bowl. There was no slander from me, sir. I am a Lamont Hollandquest truther. But yes, some younger folks, they're not up on the lore. G. David, thanks for the super chat. Interesting insight on Bisaccia from practice. I forget who, but someone said returners either get it or don't. I still like Nixon and Reed. We'll see. Yeah, that is the thing. I mean, you are generally, supposedly, a natural at it. But Nixon has been really good, obviously, on kick returns. That's where he's made his all-pro bones. But yeah, there have been a couple questionable decisions from Nixon on punt returns, which is probably why they feel like they need to rotate with Reed. But man, two really bad decisions yesterday. Mimsy, thanks for the super chat, man. Rocket balls are fun. I'm in on the roller coaster. Okay, no more rocket balls, please. That Holmgren quote never gets old. This fucking guy, thanks for the super chat. If Preston gets moved, would Cox get activated? I would suspect so. And I have seen those reports. I know, I believe it was Ian for NFL Network, NFL Media, name checking Preston Smith as someone that teams have called about, along with Andre Dillard. We'll see how much of that actually ends up even comes close to being, something that transpires, because man, a million calls get made throughout the season and very, very few deals actually end up happening. I got to think there's probably other players that are getting talked about. We'll see what happens closer to the deadline. But if Preston were to be moved, yeah, I think Brenton Cox Jr. would finally be able to at least be up on game day. Now, even then, I don't think that necessarily means he's going to be super involved. But yeah, it's a possibility. No doubt about it. I'd still be surprised, though, if the Packers actually moved Preston. Although, we'll see. I don't know. Josh, thanks again, man. Does Jordan grow out of the INT bug? Probably not completely, and I'm fine with that. I mean, see, you call it the INT bug, but it's also a making awesome fucking throws bug. And there's a very fine line there, but he's continuing to put up touchdowns at an incredible rate, big plays, huge chunk plays. Yeah, the cost of doing business sometimes is you're going to throw a couple picks. Like, you can't look at this through the Aaron Rodgers lens. I know we've come off a historical run with Rodgers of the most incredible touchdown to interception ratio you'll ever see in the history of the game. But Jordan Love ain't that guy. And I'm fine with that. In fact, that's what makes him exciting. I get we're going to have to hold our breath sometimes on some of these throws, but man, sign me up. I love it. He is a bit of a risk taker. And because of it, you're going to see amazing plays like the Tucker Kraft touchdown. And then you're going to see some boneheaded picks. I got no problem with it. You can still win. They are winning. But here's the other thing. He's still very young. I know people think he should be automatically in the height of his powers right now, but he's still figuring his powers out. He's got to learn from stuff. He's got to grow. He's got to develop. But I don't want to neuter what makes him great, which is his ability to make some of these fucking amazing throws. And hopefully that never goes away. And yes, hopefully he learns from some of the interceptions, learns when to throw it away, learns when to live and fight another day. But at the same time, I like living on the edge with Jordan because some amazing shit happens off of it. And let me tell you, you can look around the league and see you want a safe, quote unquote, quarterback, someone who's just trying to play by the book and, not put the ball in jeopardy and check it down, etc. Good luck winning a Super Bowl with that. The Packers have a chance with Jordan Love. That's just me. That's just something I'm into. All right, buddy. I'm going to have to get going. Cannot thank you enough for hanging out, talking Packers each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Please do me a monster favor. Hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then tell your friends, tell your family. Cheesehead TV. We are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night. Go Pack Go.